You know how they say better late than never? Well, it would definitely apply with these hearing aids. Hey guys, Cliff Olson, Doctor of Audiology and founder of Applied Hearing Solutions in Phoenix, Arizona, and in this video, I'm doing a detailed review of the new Phonak Virto R Infinio hearing aids. So do you remember about a year ago when I flew out to Las Vegas for the launch of Phonak's new Infinio line of hearing aids? Included in that launch was the Phonak Virto R Infinio rechargeable custom in-the-ear hearing aid. Of course, considering all the hype around that launch, everybody who's a fan of custom in-the-ear hearing aids was ecstatic about the announcement. Unfortunately, launch day came and went, and crickets. No Virto R Infinios, and no word from Phonak when these hearing aids would actually hit the market. Now this could have had something to do with the massive demand that they saw with the Phonak Audeo Sphere Infinio hearing aids that were so popular that Phonak had difficulties producing enough hearing aids to meet that demand. In fact, Phonak had difficulty producing enough trial devices for their customers to demo on their patients. In fact, I still don't think that Phonak has their production up to the level that would meet demand because we still do not have availability of certain color options that were announced at the launch. All that to say that there has been a lot of custom hearing aid users that have been eagerly awaiting the actual release of the new custom rechargeable hearing aids from Phonak. And here we are, approximately 1 year since the initial announcement of this hearing aid, and it is finally available. Now it's time to see if the wait was actually worth it. But before we do me a huge favor and click the like button. It really helps out the channel. And if you are not yet subscribed to the channel with notifications turned on, go ahead and do that as well. It is greatly appreciated. Now, before I get into the full detailed review, I should mention that it does not matter how awesome the Phonak Virto R Infinio hearing aids are unless you've had them optimized by a hearing care professional who follows comprehensive audiologic best practices. Best practices are a series of considerations and procedures including, but not limited to, speech and noise testing, test box measures, real ear measurement, and validated outcome measures to ensure that your hearing aids are fit, programmed, and set up properly. Unfortunately, less than an estimated 5% of hearing care professionals actually follow these best practices, which means that the majority of individuals who wear hearing aids are not receiving the full amount of benefit from them. Now, if you would like an easy way to find a provider that does follow comprehensive best practices, I highly recommend that you check out my website, HearingUp.com, and finding a HearingUp network member in your area. HearingUp members have been vetted and are committed to following comprehensive audiologic best practices so you can get the most out of whatever hearing aids you use. So, if hearing your absolute best is your #1 priority, finding a HearingUp network member in your area is your best bet. Okay, with that out of the way, let's get into my detailed review of these new Phonak Virto R Infinio hearing aids. Just to be clear, the Virto R Infinio is a custom rechargeable hearing aid. Phonak actually has 4 different models of hearing aids. The Audeo is their receiver and canal line of devices, the Naida is their power behind the ear devices, Sky is their pediatric line of devices, and Virto is all of their custom in-the-ear devices. And while Phonak has had the Virto custom line of devices for darn near ever at this point, this is the first rechargeable version of this hearing aid. Now when it comes to technology levels, this particular hearing aid has 4 different tier levels. You have level 90, level 70, level 50, and level 30, with level 90 being their premium offering. And just to be clear, the hearing aids that I'm using in this detailed review are the top tier level 90s with all the features and customizations available. Now it is important to understand that each time that you drop down in technology level, it does take features and customizations away from your hearing care professional who is attempting to optimize the performance of those devices for you. For instance, levels 90 and 70 come with 20 different equalizer adjustment bands in the programming software for your hearing care professional to match your prescriptive targets. If you drop down to level 50, the amount of equalizer bands drops to 16, and if you go all the way down to level 30, the amount of equalizer bands your hearing care professional has to work with is only 12. On top of that, the 90 level devices have 6 different custom programs inside of AutoSense that will adjust based on your environments, and when you drop down to level 30, you only have 2. Now I want to be clear here, it does not guarantee that if you drop down from level 90 to level 70 or level 70 to level 50 that you'll lose performance. It just means that there's potential of you leaving benefit on the table, not just now, but at some point in the future as well. Of course, when you drop down in technology level, guess what also drops? You guessed it, the price goes down as well. So my recommendation is exactly the same to everybody, which is you should go with the highest level of technology that you can reasonably afford. And if you cannot afford it, you should be dropping down to whatever technology level you can afford. And it's the job of your hearing care professional to maximize the performance of those devices for you. I have a lot of patients in level 30 who do fantastic with their hearing aids. Okay, so let's talk about who these these hearing aids are actually suitable for. The Virto R Infinio devices are intended for anyone with a mild up to a profound level of hearing loss because they can use anything between a medium receiver all the way up to an ultra power receiver. Phonak is now using what they call their right fit customization, which includes the new acoustically optimized receiver selection as well as biometric calibration. Acoustically optimized receiver selection includes a calculation of several different variables to determine the most appropriate receiver or speaker size inside of the hearing aid instead of just relying on hearing loss threshold data from your hearing care professional. They actually have an algorithm that they use to determine the most appropriate size of receiver based on several different variables about your hearing and your ears, both for low frequency hearing and high frequency hearing, as well as the potential progression of your hearing loss over time. This way you don't have to worry about getting hearing aids today and having those hearing aids still being appropriate for you 5 years down the road if your hearing has become worse. The result of this is making sure that you get the right receiver size inside of your hearing aids with optimal placement to achieve what you need that hearing aid to do without the risk of your hearing care professional messing up that selection. Phonak combines this acoustically optimized receiver selection with what they call biometric calibration. Now, biometric calibration is not new to Phonak, but what they do is they actually take 1,600 different data points about your ear mold impressions or your ear mold scans and use that information to set up the size, shape, and configuration of these hearing aids for optimal performance. This is how they get these hearing aids so stinking small but packed with a ton of great features and power. Now, I should mention that it is very important that your hearing care professional gets a really full ear impression because that is the type of data that they're using about the pinna of your ear to do this biometric calibration. Now, in my clinic, I prefer to use 3D digital ear scan so I can get a full picture of the ear for Phonak to use, but if your hearing care professional uses a putty injected into your ears, that is sufficient as well. Phonak also still uses acoustically optimized venting for the vents inside of your custom hearing aids to make sure that they minimize insertion loss as well as the occlusion effect. I've been a huge fan of acoustically optimized venting for years at this point, and when you combine acoustically optimized venting with acoustically optimized receiver selection as well as biometric calibration of these hearing aids, you have an excellent hearing aid to work with. This also means that the Virto R Infinio hearing aid will come in either an in the canal, half shell, or full shell hearing aid based on these different variables, with the goal of making these hearing aids as small as humanly possible without sacrificing performance. Okay, so let's talk about color here for a second. So clearly, the ones that Phonak sent me for this review are the black color. This is fantastic if you want these hearing aids to look more like a wireless earbud inside of your ears, or if you're just a techie individual. However, you do have a variety of different faceplate colors to choose from if you'd rather match them to your skin tone. And you can get the shell in the same color as your faceplate, or opt for the red shell for the right ear and blue shell for the left ear, or just a transparent shell if you like to see all the electronics inside of your devices. As far as the shell of these hearing aids, which is the part that goes inside of your ear that you don't really see, the build quality is the same as the previous generations of Virto devices. But the thing that they've stepped up significantly, in my opinion, is the quality of the faceplate. First of all, it just looks cooler, but the build quality of it, you can tell, is at a much higher level too. On the faceplate, they actually have a push button, they have 2 microphones, a charging contact, as well as an indicator light. The disposable battery versions of the Virto hearing aids, I don't know, they just kind of look and feel cheap because of that flimsy plastic battery door. I also hated how difficult it was to clean out the microphones of these older Virto hearing aids. I am happy to say that the new microphone ports on the Virto R Infinios are removable and replaceable. Of course, between your professional visits with your hearing care professional, I do recommend that you actually brush out those microphones periodically at your provider's recommendation. I've also identified that it's very important to use a microfiber cloth or even on occasion an alcohol wipe to wipe off the charging contacts on this hearing aid, because if you let a bunch of skin oils build up on that charging contact, it's not going to make good connection inside of the charger. It's also a little confusing why they have these like little targets built on the charging contacts that really don't serve any function. The only thing that I can surmise is that it's kind of giving a better indicator of where your target is to put it inside of the charger stand. But at the end of the day, I guess it doesn't really matter. People are going to notice it, especially if you have the black color. All right, so as far as what these hearing aids look like inside of my ears, I'm going to go ahead and put them in here for you so you can see what they look like. First and foremost, insertion is super easy with these guys, but the first thing that I notice is that they are a very slim profile. So just looking at me head on right here, you probably can't even tell that I'm wearing hearing aids. It's only when I start spinning to the side that you can actually see what these look like inside of my ears. So that's my left ear. That's my right ear. They look very similar, of course, and these do look a lot more like a wireless earbud if you get that black color. Now, the ones that I'm wearing right now are considered an in-the-canal size, so it's the smallest size that you can get of these hearing aids, and that was determined based off of that right fit customization. It is shocking to me how small they were actually able to make these, considering the fact that they are still loaded with a ton of great features like rechargeability and wireless connectivity, which you typically do not expect from a hearing aid that's this small. Now, if you want this hearing aid to be a little bit less conspicuous than the black color that I'm wearing, you can opt for the pink color, the tan color, the cocoa color, or the brown color based on your skin tone. As far as how these hearing aids feel inside of my ears, I can hardly tell that I'm even wearing anything, except for the obvious fact that I'm hearing better when they're in my ears. Like I mentioned before, I did have these designed off of a 3D ear scan that we do inside of the clinic. I just happen to like the way that those hearing aids feel when they're made off of a 3D scan versus a physical impression of my ear. Of course, for me, that's personal preference. You may feel differently about 3D impressions versus physical impressions. Now, I do want to commend Phonak for attempting to improve their wax trap system years ago with the Ciru Shield wax traps, but these hearing aids still use their Ciru Stop wax traps, which they've basically converted all of their hearing aids back to. It's just a heck of a lot easier to change out a wax trap when you can just pull a stick out, remove the old one, and then replace it with the brand new one, bada bing, bada boom. Just make sure that you change these wax traps at the recommendation of your hearing care professional based on how much earwax you end up producing while you're wearing these custom in-the-ear hearing aids. I should also mention that if you have acoustically optimized vents, or any vents for that matter, built into the earpiece like I have here, you want to make sure that you keep that free of earwax, so running a vent brush through there. If you let that plug up, it does give you really bad occlusion effect and insertion loss, meaning that the sound of your own voice gets really boomy and loud to yourself because of the bone conducted sound through your jaw that ends up in your ear canal, and it makes external sounds due to the insertion loss a lot more muffled. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about rechargeability of these hearing aids. And I know other manufacturers have had rechargeable in-the-ear hearing aids for darn near ever at this point, but I'm just happy to say that Phonak is now on board with this rechargeable custom device. If I'm being honest, it's probably about a year late because Reese's Law took effect in 2024, which made all battery packaging virtually impossible to get into without cutting off a finger with a pair of scissors. Now, they do use contact charging like I mentioned before, so there's actually metal contacts on the faceplate here that need to make physical contact with the charger stand that I'll show you here in a second. It is not using inductive charging like several other hearing aid manufacturers use. I will say though, it seems like contact charging allows a hearing aid to charge significantly faster. Now, I'll get into the charging times here in a minute, but generally speaking, Phonak has claimed that these hearing aids can get you up to 30 hours of battery life if you spend that entire time in a calm situation, meaning not a lot of digital features are working on the hearing aids. Now, if you end up streaming a lot with these hearing aids, let's say you stream up to 8 hours a day, you are only going to get up to 16 hours of battery life. I will say that based on my testing, I was able to achieve anywhere between 19 and 20 hours of battery life on a single charge with these hearing aids, and I did vary the listening environments that I was in, and I did do a little bit of streaming. Phonak also claims that it only takes 3 hours to go from a dead hearing aid up to a fully charged hearing aid, but based on my testing, I was able to go from 0% to 100% in about 2 hours and 15 minutes. Additionally, I was able to go from 0% battery life up to 22% battery life with a 30-minute charge time, and 68% battery life with a 1-hour charge time. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about the charger itself. First and foremost, this charger is super easy to open. You can see that I just opened it up with one hand like I was cracking an egg into a pan with one hand. But if you have finger dexterity issues, super easy to open, and you can tell that there's a little magnetic closure there when you get it pretty close to it being shut. On the back of the charger there, you do have a USB-C port for the included USB-C cable that you can end up plugging into a regular USB port or plug into the wall with an adapter. Inside of the charger itself, we have the little magnetic base stands right here that have 3 prongs on them that actually make contact with the hearing aids itself. And so I'm just kind of doing that blindly there, but you can see super easy to put on there. And it doesn't matter which direction you put them. This thing can spin in all different directions, so you don't have to be precise with how you set it on there. And you can see that that green light is flashing there, letting us know that it is actually charging the hearing aids. When that turns into a solid green light, it means that it is fully charged. And while I do like the charger in general, there are a couple things that I'm not a huge fan of. First and foremost, I would like this indicator light right here to tell me roughly what percentage of battery life I have left inside of the hearing aid. The Audeo line of devices actually has the light on the back of the hearing aid indicate how much battery life you have left based on changing colors. So if you get below like 90%, it switches to yellow. If you get below 20%, it switches to red. But that indicates to you how low your hearing aids got by the end of the day. Since you don't have that, you're gonna have to look inside of your app to see what percentage you drop down to by the end of the day. On top of that, because this port on the back lights up, and I like the fact that it indicates that it's getting power, the problem with that is if you have this on your nightstand, that light actually lights up the entire room. And for me, it's hard to go to sleep. I actually had to charge this in a completely separate room because it was driving me crazy. And unfortunately, this charger does not have an internal power bank. As soon as you unplug it, these hearing aids are not getting charged anymore, as you can see here, and that can be a huge problem for a lot of individuals. Now, I will say that the workaround for this is to get yourself some kind of like a charger pack like this. This is a small one that costs like 10 bucks on Amazon. You can actually plug that into the back, and now you can see that I am actually able to charge this hearing aid on the go. I will say that I'm glad that they thought of the fact that if this disconnects from power, it does not automatically turn on the hearing aid. You actually have to remove the hearing aid from the charger for that to start turning on, and you can see that indicator light blinking saying that the hearing aid's turning on. So the hearing aids won't whistle and they won't drain battery if you happen to lose power while you're charging them. Okay, enough about rechargeability. Let's talk about one of the major improvements of these hearing aids, which is the new Era chip. The Era chip powers many of the new features available inside of the Virto R Infinio hearing aids. Instead of using AutoSense OS 6.0 like they used inside of the receiver and canal Infinio hearing aids, they have now upgraded it to AutoSense OS 7.0. According to Phonak, this new AutoSense operating system is trained with 18 times more real-world data for 24% more precise environmental detection. Now, I absolutely love AutoSense, primarily because it can identify what environment you're in based on acoustic and movement data, and then put you into program settings that are more ideal for those environments. For instance, if you're sitting at home watching TV, the hearing aids will be in a calm situation setting. But then when you get up and go into your car to drive to the restaurant, your hearing aids will switch you into more of a speech and car setting to optimize yourself to be able to get rid of the road noise and be able to focus on the speech in the car. Then when you get out of your car and walk into the restaurant, after a few seconds, the hearing aids will identify that you're in a restaurant environment and then put you into a speech and noise or speech and loud noise setting so you can hear the people at the table with you versus all the background noise around you. Now, like I mentioned earlier, there are more AutoSense programs inside of the premium level devices than what there are in the lower technology level devices. For instance, in the premium level 90 hearing aids, you get calm situation, speech and noise, speech and loud noise, speech and car, comfort and noise, and music programs. By the time you drop all the way down to level 30, you have calm situation and speech and noise. That's it. Another thing that I absolutely love about AutoSense is that I get to customize all of those subset programs as a hearing care professional to make them perfect for my patients when they go into those different environments. And I get to track how often they're actually going into those environments. This significantly increases my understanding of my patients and what they're doing day to day, and then I can optimize and provide additional counseling based on that information. Now, I know that AutoSense OS 7.0 has been improved, but I've actually been running into a little bit of an issue with it because when I'm in my office, if the air conditioner is running and nobody's talking, my hearing aids actually switch over to the speech and car mode. Now, to be fair, maybe my environment is a little bit more like a moving vehicle on the road based on the frequency response of my air conditioner unit, but it's absolutely driving me crazy to the point where I have to change the settings inside of my speech and car program so it doesn't make me go nuts. The funny thing is that if someone is talking in my office when the air conditioner is on, it stays in the calm situation program. It doesn't switch over to the speech and car program, so I'm still trying to figure that one out. What's really funny is that when I look at the data logging for myself, it shows that I'm in my speech and car program approximately 13 to 16% out of a full day, and I only spend about 20 minutes driving to and from the clinic each day. Realistically, my data logging should be showing anywhere between 1 and 2%. And to be clear, I never had this issue with other Phonak hearing aids using AutoSense OS 6.0 or even 5.0. Regardless of any of that, I am still a huge fan of AutoSense OS 7.0. AutoSense also automatically controls your streaming programs, whether that is streaming speech-related media or music-related media, as well as separately controlling the streaming from your partner mic, your phone calls, and your Roger devices, no matter what technology level of Virtos you have. And while I absolutely love that you can customize every little aspect of these hearing aids in the programming software, it does take considerably more time, so you have to make sure that you have a hearing care professional who is willing to spend that time with you. This Era chip also allows for 6 out of the 7 smart speech technologies that Phonak has. This includes speech sensor for improving directional microphone focus to enhance speech understanding from all directions, speech enhancer to increase audibility of very soft voices, stereo zoom 2.0 to isolate the front-facing talkers in noisy environments, dynamic noise cancellation to reduce background noise in combination with directional microphones, motion sensor hearing, which uses a motion sensor to control microphone directionality while moving, and Roger compatibility to directly connect with the Roger microphone for optimal speech clarity. The only smart speech technology that the Virto R Infinio hearing aids do not have is the Activent receivers. Those are only available for Audeo receiver and canal hearing aids. Although it would be cool to have Activent receivers in these, I can guarantee that that would improve the performance. Now I should say that only the premium 90 level hearing aids have all of these smart speech features. You lose speech sensor and speech enhancer when you drop down from level 90 to level 70. You also lose stereo zoom 2.0 and dynamic noise cancellation when you drop down to level 50, and the only one of these features that you still get to have with level 30 technology is Roger compatibility. Okay, so let's jump into one of my favorite things when it comes to these Virto hearing aids, which is the connectivity. The new Era chip, just like inside of the Audeo line of hearing aids from Phonak, has upgraded the Bluetooth from version 4.2 to version 5.3. Not only does this significantly improve on the transmission distance of the Bluetooth signal, but it also allows these hearing aids to be future compatible with LE audio Bluetooth as well as Auracast broadcast audio. Now we do not know when the firmware update is going to come out to upgrade all of these new Phonak hearing aids on the Infinio platform to be compatible with LE audio and Auracast. It is probably going to be several years away. But you still get a significant improvement in Bluetooth with the upgrade from 4.2 to 5.3 using Bluetooth Classic. I was literally able to leave my smartphone on one side of my gym and walk all the way over to the other side of my gym and still stream audio without it cutting out. With previous versions of Phonak hearing aids, if I set my phone flat on a workout bench and I walked 20 feet away, the audio would start to get scratchy and eventually just cut out entirely. I will also say that phone calls have been amazing too. Now, the biggest issue that I have with Phonak hearing aids when it comes to phone call streaming is that while I can hear the person on the other end of the line almost perfectly with a customized program, the issue that we often have is that when you're talking, if you're in any type of a noisy environment, the person on the other end of the line actually has trouble hearing you. But there's something about the right fit customization of these hearing aids and having the microphones inside of my actual ear space that allows these hearing aids to pick up my voice a lot better than any of the Audeo devices that have the microphones behind your ears. I think we're just leveraging the benefits of the pinna effect. Now, I know that I talked about the AutoSense streaming programs a little bit earlier, and I talked about how all of that stuff can be customized, but that is extremely important when it comes to streaming audio sound quality. But another thing that plays a role in that audio quality is the actual venting that you have inside of your custom earpiece. If your vent is really really big, you're gonna leak out some bassy tones and maybe even some high frequencies as well, and then sound that you're streaming in will not sound as rich and full to you. So you have to ultimately understand that as a limitation, but I can flat out tell you that any custom hearing aid or custom ear mold does a substantially better job than any rubber dome that you would use inside of your ears when it comes to streaming sound quality. Your hearing care professional can also control the amount of ambient sound that your hearing aid microphones pick up while you're streaming. So if you want to shut off the sound around you completely when you're streaming an audiobook or music or whatever the case may be, it can be pre-set up that way by your hearing care professional. Of course, some people like to keep some sound awareness in their environment while they're streaming just for safety purposes. One thing that you'll notice if you play around with the MyPhonak app that I'll talk about here in a minute is that you can actually go and adjust your streaming balance, and you can even mute your microphones on your hearing aids entirely so nothing distracts you when you're streaming from your smart device. Now I have a quick little tip for you here. So everybody who wears Phonak hearing aids that has this streaming capability reports that every once in a while they get a change in the audio of a few seconds, usually 3 to 7 seconds. The reason that is because your phone or your tablet or whatever you're connected up to is sending some type of a notification to your hearing aids that is switching it over to Bluetooth streaming plus mic mode, which usually has different audio settings. So it can sound a lot like you're getting a little white noise or something like that. But you can remove that by adjusting the attenuation and having your hearing care professional adjust the noise block setting of your streaming programs. Trust me, you'll thank me later. Your hearing care professional can even adjust these different offsets with your partner microphone, your phone call streaming, as well as your Roger devices. Now that motion sensor that I talked about earlier is used to adjust your AutoSense program settings based on movement, but the motion sensor also allows you to do a variety of different things as long as you have the 90, 70, or 50 level devices. For instance, you can simply double tap your ear to answer a phone call. You can double tap your ear to end that phone call. If you're streaming audio from your phone, you can double tap to pause that audio and then double tap to resume the audio. And yes, you can also double tap to activate a voice assistant, although that personally drives me crazy. Let me do a quick screen capture to show you how this actually works. So I've got some music here. I'm gonna go ahead and hit play, and I can hear that music in both of my ears right now, but I'm gonna pause it just by doing a double tap here. There we go, the music is paused. We're having a conversation now, and now you're gonna go away, and I'm gonna double tap on my ear again to resume the music. And there we go. Super, super awesome to be able to use tap control on these custom hearing aids. As far as issues with the double tap, other than the fact that the voice assistant seems to pop on occasion without you intending it to do so, which can be deactivated, by the way, by your hearing care professional or by yourself, is that a lot of people struggle with how they're supposed to be tapping their ear. It is a very quick double tap. Bump, bump, just like that. If you do something like this, that is not going to get it. It has to be a very sequential double tap. The other issue that I see is that people are on the phone, they're talking with whoever, they go up and they scratch their ear, and the hearing aid thinks that you're trying to double tap to hang up on them, so then you end up having to call them back. I personally feel that I run into fewer issues with that tap control with the hearing aid inside of your ear like you get with the Virto versus the Audeo hearing aids that go behind your ears. You can still pair with up to 8 different wireless devices with these hearing aids with 2 active connections at the same time. So let's say that you have 2 different devices that are your favorite devices. Both of these can be paired and actively used at the same time, meaning that if I'm playing music on this one and I'm like, oh, hold on, I want to do a phone call on this one, you can seamlessly transition over without having to turn off and on Bluetooth. And yes, it doesn't matter if you have an Android device or an Apple device or a desktop computer, laptop computer, smartphone, dumb phone, it doesn't matter. If it has Bluetooth Classic, you can pretty much pair with it and use it. And to finish off on connectivity, I have to say that the transitioning between interacting with different devices has become a lot smoother and quicker as well. Okay, so let's talk about the MyPhonak app. So the MyPhonak app did receive an update with the launch of this new hearing aid. In case you're unfamiliar with the MyPhonak app, it's a very easy way to change the different volume levels of your hearing aids, switch between different programs that you may want to use in different environments. You can even mute the hearing aids. You can go into the adjust settings and see what type of program you're actually in if you're using the automatic program, and you can customize your own programs and save them for you to use later. You can even access remote support with your hearing care professional. Just keep in mind that you are likely going to want to set up an appointment to do one of these remote sessions because it is synchronous, meaning that you and your hearing care professional need to log in at the same time to do a remote session with you. If you want to, you can set up an account with Phonak. It's not required, but if you want them to be able to give you your health-related data, you need to have an account to do it and see it inside of the app. And I might as well plug one of my other videos right now. I do have a full tutorial video of the MyPhonak app that I just recently did, so if you want to check out that video, I will have it linked in the description for you to watch when you're done with this review. One of the coolest updates of the app is the one-step pairing process. So previously, you would have to go into the MyPhonak app and pair both of your hearing aids up with the app. And then once you're done with that, you'd have to reboot whatever your main hearing aid was for the Bluetooth Classic streaming connection, go back into the settings of the actual phone and pair that hearing aid separately, and then you would see 3 different Bluetooth connections inside of the settings of your Bluetooth on your phone, which was incredibly difficult for a lot of people. Now, when you're connecting up with the MyPhonak app, it automatically does your streaming connection for you. And on top of that, you only see 2 connections inside of the Bluetooth settings, which is much easier for most people to understand. Okay, sticking with connectivity, let's talk about the different wireless accessories that you have access to in the Phonak portfolio. So in addition to you streaming to any third-party device that has Bluetooth Classic, you also get compatibility with the Roger devices, the partner microphones, the TV connectors, and even the remote control. I think that you'd be hard-pressed to find a hearing aid manufacturer that has more and better accessories than what Phonak has. The TV connector basically makes dialogue on the television super clear, and if you're the type of person who only ever needs to hear one other person, like your spouse or significant other, when you go out to dinner, all you need to do is get the little partner mic and clip it on their shirt and you're good to go. The background noise will not interfere with your conversation. You can also control all of these different accessories inside of the MyPhonak app, so you can make them function exactly like you want them to. And that's all in addition to your hearing care professional being able to fully customize the programming of all of these different accessories as well. Okay, let's talk tinnitus features for a second here. So the Virto R Infinio hearing aids are great devices when it comes to amplifying sound to address tinnitus concerns, but they also have access to Phonak's tinnitus balance feature. The tinnitus balance feature has to be activated by your hearing care professional, and they can do it inside of specific programs. So if you want the masker available in some programs, but not other programs, they can do that. Now, if you're unfamiliar with what maskers are, it's basically like a white static noise that you hear that essentially tries to drown out the perception of your tinnitus. Just remember that masking can be helpful, but masking should never be your only tinnitus treatment that you use. If the hearing aids alone are not improving your tinnitus symptoms, then you need to make sure that you're working with a hearing care professional who actually specializes in tinnitus. And I should mention that one of the best ways to find a hearing care professional who specializes in tinnitus treatment outside of just using hearing aids is to go to moderntinnitus.co and finding a modern tinnitus specialty center in your area. Okay, so not to be a Debbie Downer, but I should talk about certain features that are not available inside of these hearing aids that I wish they had. The Virto R Infinio does not have the same deep sonic chip that you have inside of the Phonak Audeo Sphere Infinio hearing aids. The deep sonic chip was trained using a deep neural network that uses artificial intelligence to separate speech from background noise. It is probably one of the most impressive features that Phonak has ever created ever since the development of their Roger technology. And it is quite noticeably missing from the Virto R Infinios. Phonak has also decided not to include a telecoil inside of any of the sizes of their Virto R Infinio hearing aids. So even though you may have room for a telecoil inside of the full shell Virto R Infinio, they decided not to include it. They are essentially doubling down on the fact that at some point in the future, Auracast is going to completely take over from an accessibility standpoint. They also do not have a cross-transmitter option for the Virto devices anymore. This is something that they used to have back in the day, and I loved them back in the day, but for whatever reason, there's just not enough individuals with single-sided deafness who would be using a custom in-the-ear hearing aid to justify creating a cross-transmitter for them. So if that's you, I apologize on Phonak's behalf. However, your hearing care professional can use the acoustic phone feature to perform amp cross, which is basically a programming trick to route sound from one side over to your other side. Although this is typically not as good of an option of actually having a cross transmitter and being able to benefit from all of the other features of the Phonak hearing aids. Okay, so what are my final thoughts? Overall, I absolutely love the Phonak Virto R Infinio hearing aids. To have this many features that work this well inside of a hearing aid that is potentially this small is mind-blowing to me. The fit and feel of these hearing aids are terrific, and on top of that, the performance of these hearing aids is off the charts, at least with the 90 level devices that I tested myself. Sure, there are some features that I wish that these had, but for a custom in-the-ear hearing aid, I'm still super impressed. You just have to remember the fact that a hearing aid is only as good as the hearing care professional who fits and programs it. But assuming you can find one of these hearing care professionals that follows best practices and takes the time necessary to optimize every little tiny feature of these hearing aids, I can virtually guarantee that you're gonna love them too.